Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today I'm gonna retell a story about Daniel Deronda. The novel begins in the functional town of Lebanon, Germany. Daniel is both attracted and repulsed by Gwendolyn Hurlitz, a beautiful young woman with problem gambling. Gwendolyn finds out the night after losing her personal saving in a game of roulette that her family is financially ruined. She found the necklace, considering using the money to gamble further in the hope of remaking her fortune and saving her family. A servant delivers her recently sold necklace back to her, and Gwendolyn understands that Daniel saw her pawn it and repurchased it for her. The place is back a year. In the wake of her stepfather's death, Gwendolyn's family relocates in her new neighbors. She meets, she meets Henley Mellinger, grandcourt, who quickly proposes to her. Henley is an iconic and unfriendly man, but because of her great fortune, Gwendolyn considers his advances until she learns of his mistress and illegitimate children. Fleeing town, she meets Daniel the Englishman, Sir Hugo Mellinger. Daniel are close. Sir Hugo wishes Daniel to into politics, but Daniel, a bright and kindly young man, isn't sure what he wants to do with his life. While beating on the Thames in the summer of 1965, Daniel prevents a young man, Mira Lapidoth, from committing suicide. He learns that the Jewish girl is a singer and had come to London after discovering that her father intended to sell her into prostitution. She wants to find her mother and brother, who she thinks live in London. Daniel resolved to help her find her family. As it turns out, her mother is dead, but by helping Mira, Daniel's become acquainted with London's Jewish community. He also begins to develop feelings to Mira, which dismay him, so he attempts to flee them by returning from a time back to Lebanon. The story returns to present time. Gwendolyn, destitute, unmarried, and unwilling to marry, is considering becoming a governess. However, doing so would lower her social position, and she doesn't want to either. She decides she will try a career on stage, but her hope is quickly dashed by a popular musician who informs her that she doesn't have the chops or discipline, with no other options available. She agrees to marry Henley, even though she had earlier promised his mistress she would not. Meanwhile, returns to helping Mira. They meet Mordecai, a sickly but impassionate man who hopes to see his fellow Jews recover their promised land. Daniel, and convinced by Mordecai, who wants to Daniel carry on his teaching by Mordecai, who wants to Daniel carry on his teaching of his day. But Daniel is torn by prospect since he himself is not Jewish. The situation becomes more foul for Daniel when Mordecai is revealed as Mira's long-lost brother. Gwendolyn's hopes being able to make her new husband her puppet turns out to be woefully overblown. She also cursed by Lydian on her wedding day, which fills her with dread. She meets regularly with Daniel, using him for emotional support for she cannot get from anyone else in her life. One day, during a trip to Italy, Henley knocked off his boat. Gwendolyn, who has many times wished for his death, hesitates over whether to jump in after him. Eventually, she does, but it is too late. Afterward, she is racked with guilt, as has become her wont. She turns to Daniel, who is also coincidentally in Italy, for comfort. Daniel is in Italy because Sir Hugo has finally told him that his mother his mother lives there and he wants to find her. Gwendolyn falls in love with Daniel and hopefully will able to be together. But Daniel instead counsels her to dedicate herself to helping others. Daniel learns that his mother is a former famous opera singer. She is also, as it turns out, Jewish. She was forced to marry a man she didn't love by her father. And when he died, she asked Sir Hugo, who was in love with her, to raise Daniel as an English gentleman, to save him the severity of her own religious upbringing. Learning of heritage makes Daniel finally feel at ease with his love for Mira. He returned to England, and Mira, however, he meets with Gwendolyn, explaining his new situation to her. Distraught, Gwendolyn resolved that from that point forward she shall live. On his wedding day, Daniel received a letter from her telling him that she become a better person because of his counsel and asking him never to think of her sadly. Daniel, Mira, and Medicaid then prepare for their journey east to the promised land. Before they can leave, Mordecai dies surrendered by his family. George Eliot's Daniel Deronda was exceptional among contemporary Victorian literature for his human and nuanced portrayal of the Jewish community, a rarity at a time when Jews thought related were treated with contempt by most Europeans. This contempt is reflected several scenes in the book and in the Daniel's own initial struggle to reconcile his feelings for Mira. The novel has been the subject of the numerous adaptations into television and film, most recently in 2002 on BBC One.